Welcome to the third video in our Central Sensitization series. I'm Megan Hughes and I run the Stillwater Counseling and Pain Management practice. Today I'd like to share with you some important ideas about the mind-body connection in conditions that are chronic and complex. I hope these ideas will help you in your recovery. One of the most common traits I see in the people I work with all different types of chronic conditions, is that they start to feel alienated in their own bodies. As human beings, we have a unique duality within ourselves that we typically say is mind-body. We have different ways of expressing this. We call it subjective self and objective self. We call it the I, and we talk about the body as something separate from us. Sometimes we call ourselves the observer part and the part that's observed. And sometimes we say we when we're thinking about the self. It's important for recovery to start to see the self as unified again. One of the ways we split ourselves is by viewing our mind-body as a relationship, as though the body is a person sitting beside us, feeding us information, and we have to deal with all of that information. So with a well body, this may not be so difficult. When we're young, our bodies typically do exactly what we want them to do. We say, I feel like going for a hike today, and then we go for a hike. Or I feel like learning how to climb, and we go ahead and learn. The body is responsive to the mind's needs and wants. But what if it isn't? How would you feel about the person right next to you all the time if all they said were negative things to you? At first, you may try to shut the messages up. Lots of folks try to push the body back into obeying. They ignore the pain. They push through the pain. They force the body to perform whether it wants to or not. But then the body just gets louder. Now there's a change in the relationship. And oftentimes this change creates a split or a wedge inside of a person. There can be feelings of disappointment, frustration, judgment, shame, guilt, grief, anger, betrayal, and even hatred towards the body. And it's up to the person to have to manage all of that on top of the actual physical symptoms they're feeling. So sometimes you just need to have a break. And it's hard to be in a difficult, demanding, and oftentimes unpleasant relationship all the time. It feels stressful. You want to have time off this relationship, to have a break from it, but this is your body. You can't have time off. So, creating breaks starts to look like not existing in your body, or not being present, like zoning out, dissociating, watching lots of TV. And then, after a while of this, other feelings may grow, like depression, hopelessness, and oppression from this irritating, painful dynamic. Stress on top of the stress your body is already struggling with. So in order not to pile on stress on top of stress, creating a healthy, calm, working relationship with your own body is imperative. But how, when your body lets you down all the time? Well, it helps to see the body a bit differently. The body is not a person. Understanding the intention of the body in a more objective way helps. This means understanding that the body's processes are, in a strange way, nothing to do with you. It means it's not personal towards you or your character. Your body's processes are automatic and instinctive. Your body is simply doing what it needs to do, given the information that it has. This is a relationship, but it's a special kind of relationship, unlike person to person. The metaphor that I like to use to help turn this relationship around is that the body is like a loyal and loving pet. For those of you who are dog people, it's kind of like a dog in your life. Cats are a little bit more difficult. I have 2 cats, I know this. But let's imagine that you have a beautiful, loving dog in your life. All this dog wants is to obey you, wants to make you happy, wants to be near you and be close, wants to feel safe with you, wants to feel protective of you and being protected by you. But there are some times when the dog does things instinctively and gets it wrong. Sometimes it chews your shoe and then brings it to you and says, "Am I good? Did I do good?" And sometimes it will stand at the window and bark and bark and bark out of fear. Your body's sensitization is like the dog standing at the window barking out of fear. It's saying, "I don't know if this is okay. Is this okay? I don't know. And so I'm going to resort to creating an alarm as a way of protecting myself and protecting you." Protection. So what would you do if you had a dog that was nervous and anxious, barking at something out the window all the time? How would you speak to this dog? Would you speak to the dog the way you speak to yourself? Would you say, "Oh no, here we go again. Another day is ruined. When is this ever going to end? Nothing ever goes right for me." Would that help the dog to calm down? Would you yell at the dog and say, "What's your problem? Shut up. Why are you so stupid? What's your problem? You can't do anything right." Would that help the dog to calm down? Our goal here is to get the nervous system to be calm and optimally functioning all the time. And the way you speak to yourself, your mind-body connection, guides the body's responses. If you had a barking dog and you felt calm, the first thing you might do is check it out. Go see what the dog is barking at. Then you can realize there's nothing particularly wrong. It's just anxiety. It's just sensitization. And you can approach it as a chronic and not an acute condition. If somebody was breaking into the house, that's an acute condition. If nothing's going on out there, that's a chronic condition. So let's take a second to differentiate exactly between acute pain and chronic pain. If there is something mechanically happening in the body to produce a pain response, such as a nerve impingement, muscle tension, a broken bone, recovery from surgery, lesions in the digestive tract, anything where tissue is being damaged, that is acute pain. Acute conditions require medical attention and treatment and pain management through meds. But acute pain ends. Chronicity happens in the brain when the body has already healed and there's no medical reason for pain or sensitivity to persist, and yet it persists. Chronic is software. Acute is hardware. Keeping the nervous system calm and optimized will certainly help with both. However, acute primarily needs hardware attention. When the issue is chronic, then we focus on changing the software. That is, retraining the brain to respond differently to the stimulus. So, back to our metaphor. That means training the dog to respond differently. And the way you train the dog is you sit with the dog and you look out the window. And you say, "Look at that. That's just a kid in a bike. That's okay." And you pet the dog while speaking gently. And you might say, "Okay, come here boy, come here, come and sit." And you sit down with the dog, and the dog sits with you at your feet, and you pat the dog, and you say, "There's nothing to worry about, shh, it's okay." So you soothe the instinctive and automatic response. Then you're starting to change the association. You're starting to associate the previously anxious stimulus, the boy on the bike, with calmness and reassurance. So as with your body, you need to change the associations that you have with the stimulus in your own body. So that means when you have flare-ups, aches, pains, fatigue, feelings of illness, you don't go into alarm. You respond differently. So, how do you soothe yourself when you're feeling activated in your body? Most people that I speak to watch TV or lie down and are very quiet. But let's ask, how do you soothe yourself on the inside? How do you speak to yourself? How do you approach all this stuff? It's possible to lay down and still be stressed out on the inside. So let's start with a cognitive approach because it fits with our metaphor. You are the dog, and you are also the kind, gentle trainer or guide to the brain. So, here's how we start cultivating the guiding voice. Imagine that you have a lovely, kind, soft person like a kindergarten teacher with you, and they really take time to get to your level and listen to you. And they give you time to talk about your feelings, and they're very warm and caring. Imagine that their voice is inside your mind. Every time you need support, gentleness, and understanding, they are there. Now, compare that gentle voice to the voice that you have right now toward your body. How do they compare? Is your inner voice critical, frustrated, kind of hard on you? Is it discouraging, stressed, or maybe perfectionistic? Do you say pressuring words like I have to or I should a lot? Many people who have gotten to this place are doers, you could say. They're people who identify themselves and their self-image with someone who is effective and can get the job done. They're fixers and helpers to their friends and family. Oftentimes, they're putting themselves last and putting everyone else first. But now you can't put anyone else first. Your body won't let you. But you still got this voice that says, I should be able to do that. And it's grieving and despairing to you to believe you can't do these things. So this inner voice may push you to do more and then despair when you can't. And push and despair, keeping this cascade of negative emotion flowing throughout the body. This is where the soothing voice really helps to change this cycle. It might say, you're doing the best you can. It's okay to let go of needing to do more. It's okay to just be and to be yourself right now. Trust that you're learning how to be different inside yourself. Trust that you're learning how to soften and how to be in a softer, calmer state in yourself. You're good enough just as you are. If you could imagine having that person beside you throughout your childhood, how do you think you'd feel now? If you could have this kind of support all the time, how would that change your life? How would that change your stress? This is the cornerstone of shifting what's happening in the body. If you want to desensitize, you need to optimize your internal environment. I like that phrase. I use that a lot. You cannot control the external environment, but you can control your internal environment by regulating what you eat, what you drink, who you expose yourself to, and how you think and how you relate to yourself. As a way to start you off, I want you to start to pay attention to all the parts of your body that are performing perfectly well right now. There are thousands of processes happening in your body at any given moment, and many of them are working just fine. You'll find that more processes are working fine than aren't, actually. Your skin is breathing. It's producing oils and hairs. It's sensing things for you. Your digestive system is working, although some of you with IBS may feel it's a challenge, but it is still absorbing nutrients and ingesting and eliminating enough to keep you alive. The respiratory system is working. The hemostatic system is working. The visual and auditory sensory systems are working, sometimes heightened, but working. The reproductive systems are often working. The muscular systems, the lymphatic system, the circulatory system. There are many, many systems going on in the body at any given time. Just notice what is working well and well enough, and give your body some appreciation and even compassion. Your body is instinctively trying to work with what it's given. I often say to people, imagine what your body would do if you ate a big bowl of ice cream for breakfast. It would say, okay, this is going to be a problem, but I'm going to absorb all of that sugar and fat. I'm going to turn it into fat storage. I'm going to release some sugar into your bloodstream and give you a bunch of energy. You might get a headache because of the increased blood pressure, but I'm going to make you thirsty so that you drink lots of water to regulate that pressure. I'm going to release a bunch of insulin to absorb all the sugar. I'm going to work with it as best as I can. I'll do my best. It's working with you all the time. no matter what you do, no matter what you give it to work with. It says, I'll try my best to work with that, because it doesn't want to harm you. It doesn't want you to die. It doesn't want you to malfunction. It wants to work well, and it wants you to have as healthy and long a life as possible. Its entire purpose is to be alive and to remain alive as long as it can. So start to trust the body a little more. Connect with it in a new way. Give it some appreciation. Repair the relationship so that you can sit side by side in collaboration. Listen to what it needs, and it will give you what you need when it is trained over time. I hope these ideas were helpful to you in your recovery. If you have any questions or comments, please feel free to contact my office. I would be happy to speak with you. Thanks for listening.